Published 1005 Est, 6 November 2017. Updated 1526 Est, 6 November 2017. A British mother could be condemned to another 5 years in jail in Tehran after Boris Johnson wrongly claimed she had been training journalists in the country. Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe was arrested in Iran last year after traveling to the country to take her young daughter Gabriella to visit her parents. She was found guilty of spying and sentenced to 5 years in prison despite insisting she is innocent and was simply on holiday. The Motheraphone, from Hampstead in North London, was hauled back to court at the weekend to face propaganda charges after Mr. Johnson's intervention. If she is found guilty of the new charge, she could have her sentence doubled to 10 years. Her husband Richard Ratcliffe told Mail Online his wife sobbed down the phone to him after she was dragged back to court. He said Mr. Johnson's comment has given the Iranians a chance to smear his wife and hit her with fresh charges. The Foreign Office issued tonight a statement suggesting Mr. Johnson's comment has been misrepresented in Iran, but falling short of an apology or retraction. Mr. Johnson will phone his Iranian counterpart to underline his position and press for Mrs. Zaghari-Ratcliffe's release, the Foreign Office said. Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe with her husband Richard Ratcliffe and their daughter Gabriella. Mrs. Zaghari-Ratcliffe was jailed for 5 years in Iran for spying but insists she is innocent and only in the country to visit her parents with her young daughter. File pic. Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, pictured with her daughter Gabriella, could have her sentence doubled from 5 to 10 years after the Foreign Secretary wrongly said she had been in Iran training journalists. File photo. Downing Street said Mr. Johnson and Theresa May have been working on the case for a long period. Mrs. May's spokesman said work was underway to establish the facts of the case and did not immediately express confidence in Mr. Johnson when pressed by reporters. Shadow Foreign Secretary Emily Thornberry tonight called for Mr. Johnson to resign if Mrs. Zaghari-Ratcliffe faces an extended jail sentence because of his remarks. The Iranian judiciary's High Council for Human Rights said the Foreign Secretary's statement had shed new light on the case. Mr. Ratcliffe told Mail Online that's why it is so important that he issues a retraction, saying very clearly that she is innocent as far as he is concerned, and doing nothing other than visiting the country with her daughter. I'm still amazed that on day 583 the British government still has not said this is a mum who's being held. This is crazy. Rather than implying that she was doing something and therefore the criminal suspicions are justified. Not issuing a correction makes it look like HES endorsing what the Iranians are trying to do. April 2016, arrested by the Revolutionary Guard in Tehran airport after visiting her parents in Iran with her young daughter Gabriella. She was taken to prison and held in solitary confinement for 45 days before being moved to a women's wing. The Motheraphone was not given access to legal counsel or medical treatment, and the lights in her cell remained permanently switched on. As a result, Mrs. Zaghari-Ratcliffe experienced problems walking, weight loss, and hair loss. September 2016, she was sentenced to 5 years in prison for spying following a trial campaigners have branded secret and unfair. April 2017, Mrs. Zaghari-Ratcliffe lost her appeal to overturn her sentence. November 2017, she is hit with fresh charges of spreading propaganda just days after Boris Johnson told Britain's Foreign Affairs Select Committee that she has been training journalists in Iran. He said the fresh charge had come as a horrible bolt out of the blue for his wife in Iran. He said Nazanin was very shocked and just cried on the phone for most of the call on Saturday when she was taken to court. Mrs. Zaghari-Ratcliffe is a dual British and Iranian national, but Tehran does not recognize dual citizenship and have rebuffed all attempts to free her. Her case has attracted a lot of media coverage, and the Foreign Secretary was asked about it when he appeared before a parliamentary select committee last week. He told MPs, "When I look at what Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe was doing, she was simply teaching people journalism as I understand it. Neither Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe nor her family has been informed about what crimes she has actually committed." and that I find extraordinary, incredible. Mrs. Zaghari-Ratcliffe's employers at the Thomson Reuters Foundation have issued an angry statement demanding that Mr. Johnson immediately apologize for the mistake. Chief Executive Monique Villa said, "I once again urge Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson to immediately correct the serious mistake he made at the Foreign Affairs Select Committee in Parliament." On the 1st of November he said that Nazanin was training journalists in Iran. "I have immediately clarified that this is not right, as she is not a journalist and has never trained journalists at the Thomson Reuters Foundation, where she is project manager in my media development team. She was in Iran on holiday to show her daughter Gabriella to her grandparents when she was arrested at Tehran airport on the 3rd of April 2016. Ms. Villa also blamed the error for the new propaganda charge and said this can only worsen her sentence. She added, "She is obviously a bargaining chip between the UK government and Iran, and this injustice must stop as soon as possible. Whatever is at stake should be paid attention to by the UK government." The Iranian judiciary's High Council for Human Rights said yesterday for months it was claimed that Nazanin is a British-Iranian charity worker who went to see her family when she was arrested. Mr. Johnson's statement has shed new light on the realities about Nazanin. Ms. Siddique, Labour MP for Hampstead and Kilburn, where Mrs. Zaghari-Ratcliffe lived with her husband before she was arrested, said Mr. Johnson must retract his statement. Boris Johnson, pictured at the Foreign Affairs Select Committee last week, incorrectly told MPs that Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe was imprisoned in Iran for training journalists in the country. Her bosses have issued an angry statement clarifying she was not training reporters and demanding Mr. Johnson to apologize for the gaffe added by suggesting Nazanin was in Iran teaching people journalism. Boris Johnson has endangered the cause to secure her release. His comments were both untrue and unhelpful to her case. In her 18 months of arbitrary detention in Iran, the Foreign Secretary has yet to visit Nazanin or her family in Tehran. He has also failed to meet with her husband Richard, who has been separated from his wife and their daughter for more than a year and a half. I urge the Foreign Secretary to formally retract his comments, and to stick to his word and take the opportunity to visit Nazanin in Iran at the earliest possible opportunity. Mrs. Zaghari-Ratcliffe was arrested at Tehran airport in April last year, where she was hit by criminal charges alleging she was visiting Iran as part of a plan to topple the government. She was found guilty of spying and thrown into prison. The Motheraphone mounted an appeal, but lost the final stage of her case in April this year, 12 months after her ordeal began. She was told she has no more legal avenues open to her, and the fresh charge issued at the weekend will only weaken her attempt to clear her name. The mother of one was initially put into solitary confinement before finally being moved to the women's ward of Evin prison in Tehran on Boxing Day. She has been able to have visits from her daughter Gabriella, who has stayed in Iran to live with her grandparents so she can be closer to her mother, but Mrs. Zaghari-Ratcliffe has suffered from a series of health complaints since being imprisoned, including shoulder and back problems. Labour MP Tulip Siddique has hit out at Boris Johnson over the comment and demanded he retract it. She also criticized the Foreign Secretary for failing to visit Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe during her 18 months in prison in Tehran. She has also been prescribed medication to help her sleep, which has helped with the panic attacks she had been experiencing, he said. Alan Hogarth, Amnesty International UK's head of policy and government affairs, said everything that's happened to Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe since she was detained last year suggests the Iranian authorities have been intent on building a bogus criminal case against her. Ms. Zaghari-Ratcliffe is a charity worker and mother of a young daughter who's already been subjected to solitary confinement, a grossly unfair trial, and now reportedly faces the threat of a new criminal charge. A Foreign Office spokesman issued a statement but fell short of apologizing. He said last week's remarks by the Foreign Secretary provide no justifiable basis on which to bring any additional charges against Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe. While criticizing the Iranian case against Mrs. Zaghari-Ratcliffe, the Foreign Secretary sought to explain that even the most extreme set of unproven Iranian allegations against her were insufficient reason for her detention and treatment. The UK will continue to do all it can to secure her release on humanitarian grounds, and the Foreign Secretary will be calling the Iranian Foreign Minister to raise again his serious concerns about the case and ensure his remarks are not misrepresented.